Most people spend their entire lives chasing happiness without realizing their own minds are destroying it. They chase money, relationships, success, approval, distractions, hoping that one day something outside them will finally make them feel complete. But peace, real peace, does not come from getting everything you want. It comes when you stop fighting yourself.
And stay close, because the next story may reveal the dangerous habit keeping millions of people poor without them ever realizing it. Thank you for watching. Your next level.
This is the story of a woman who lost almost everything and discovered a truth most people never understand until it's too late. Elena lived in one of the busiest cities in the world. From the outside, her life looked perfect. A high-paying job, a beautiful apartment, elegant clothes, luxury restaurants, weekend vacations, thousands of followers online. People looked at her life and quietly wished they had it too. But every morning, before the sun even rose, Elena would wake up with a strange heaviness in her chest. Not pain, not sadness exactly, just emptiness, an exhaustion so deep, sleep could never fix it. Every day felt like a performance. Smile in meetings, reply to messages, post another perfect photo, laugh at dinner tables, pretend everything was fine. And every night, when the noise disappeared, she would sit alone in silence, feeling something she could never explain, as if her soul was starving, while her life kept getting bigger. She tried to fix it the way most people do. She bought more things, worked harder, traveled more, met new people, watched motivational videos, read self-help books, started meditation apps, but nothing lasted. The happiness always disappeared. Every temporary high was followed by the same emptiness, again and again and again, until one night, everything finally collapsed. The breakdown. It happened during a company dinner. The restaurant was loud, elegant, full of successful people pretending to enjoy themselves. Someone asked Elena a simple question. "So, are you happy?" She smiled automatically, the way she always did. But this time, something inside her broke. Her smile froze, her chest tightened, and suddenly, she couldn't breathe. The noise around her became distant. Her hands started shaking. Her vision blurred. She rushed into the bathroom, locked the door, and collapsed onto the floor. For the first time in years, Elena stopped pretending, and the truth terrified her. She was exhausted, not physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She had spent her entire life trying to become someone impressive, but forgot how to become peaceful. That night, she went home, sat on the floor beside her bed, and cried until sunrise. Not because of one bad day, but because she realized she no longer knew how to feel alive. The next morning, she did something unexpected. She turned off her phone, canceled work for a week, packed a small bag, and left the city. Running away from life. Elena traveled for hours until the giant buildings disappeared and silence slowly replaced the noise. She arrived in a small mountain village, far away from traffic, screens, meetings, and pressure. The village was simple: old wooden homes, Quiet streets, cold wind moving through the trees. For the first time in years, nobody cared who she was. Nobody knew her salary, her followers, her achievements, and strangely, that terrified her too. Because without all those things, who was she? The first few days were unbearable. No notifications, no endless scrolling, no constant stimulation, just silence. And inside that silence, her mind became louder than ever. Regrets, fear, loneliness, memories she had buried for years. The truth she spent her whole life avoiding finally caught up to her. One afternoon, unable to escape her thoughts anymore, Elena wandered deep into the mountains. And there, she met an old woman. The old woman. The woman sat quietly beside a small river. She looked old, but peaceful. Not the fake peacefulness people perform online. Real peace. The kind that changes the atmosphere around someone. The old woman smiled gently. "You look tired," she said. Elena laughed softly. "Everyone says that." The woman nodded. "Because your soul is exhausted." Something about those words made Elena emotional instantly, as if someone had finally seen the pain she spent years hiding. Elena sat beside her. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Only the sound of water moving across stones. Finally, Elena whispered, "I don't understand what's wrong with me." The old woman looked toward the river. "You have spent too much time chasing happiness." Elena frowned. "Isn't everyone trying to be happy?" The old woman smiled again. "No, most people are trying to escape themselves." Silence filled the air, and for the first time in years, Elena truly listened. The first lesson. The old woman picked up a glass jar beside her. Inside was muddy water. She shook it violently. The dirt swirled everywhere. "This is the human mind," she said. "Constant movement, constant noise, constant reaction." Then she placed the jar on the ground. Slowly, the dirt began sinking. The water became clear again. "Peace does not come from controlling life," she whispered. "It comes from allowing the mind to become still." Elena stared at the jar silently. The woman continued, "You believe happiness exists somewhere outside you. In achievement, money, love, validation. But the more you chase those things, the more restless your mind becomes." Elena looked down, because deep inside, she knew it was true. Every goal she reached only created another goal. Every success created another fear. Fear of losing it. Fear of not being enough. Fear of falling behind. The old woman spoke softly. "A restless mind can never experience peace, even inside a beautiful life." Those words hit Elena harder than anything she had heard before, because she realized her suffering was not created by reality. It was created by her relationship with reality. The invisible prison. The next day, Elena returned to the river, and the next day after that. Slowly, the old woman began teaching her things nobody else ever had. "Your mind is addicted to stimulation," she explained. "That is why silence feels uncomfortable." She pointed toward the mountains. "Nature is peaceful because it does not resist itself. Trees do not compare themselves. Rivers do not rush. The sky does not compete." Elena smiled slightly. The woman continued, "Human beings suffer because they constantly fight reality. Fight the past. Fight uncertainty. Fight emotions. Fight themselves. The old woman looked directly into Elena's eyes. You are not tired because life is hard. You are tired because your mind never stops fighting. Those words echoed inside Elena for days. She began noticing her thoughts more carefully. Every morning, anxiety appeared immediately. What if I fail? What if people forget me? What if I waste my life? What if I'm not enough? Her mind was constantly attacking her, even when nothing bad was happening. And for the first time, Elena realized something terrifying. Most of her suffering had never actually happened. It existed only inside her mind. Learning to let go. One evening, Elena asked the old woman a question. How do I stop overthinking? The old woman smiled. You do not stop thoughts by fighting them. She pointed toward the sky. Clouds pass naturally. Thoughts do too. Then she added quietly, the problem is not your thoughts. The problem is that you believe every thought deserves your attention. Elena sat silently. The old woman continued. A negative thought enters your mind, and instead of observing it, you feed it. Fear becomes panic. Sadness becomes hopelessness. Stress becomes identity. The woman looked at Elena carefully. You have spent years watering poisonous thoughts, then wondering why peace never grows. That sentence changed something inside her, because Elena finally understood. Peace was not something you find. It was something you protect. From noise, from comparison, from fear, from constant mental chaos. Over the following weeks, Elena slowly changed her habits. She stopped checking her phone constantly, stopped comparing herself online, stopped filling every moment with distraction. At first, the silence felt unbearable. Then, slowly, it became beautiful. The truth about happiness. One cold morning, Elena asked the old woman another question. Then, what is happiness? The woman smiled gently. Happiness is temporary. Peace is deeper. Elena listened carefully. Happiness comes and goes, the woman explained. Good moments, bad moments, pleasure, pain. Life moves like seasons. She looked toward the mountains. But peace is what remains. When you stop demanding life to be perfect, ask. The wind moved softly through the trees. Most people destroy their peace, she continued, because they believe they must always feel happy. So when sadness comes, they panic. When uncertainty comes, they panic. When pain comes, they think life is broken. But pain is part of life. Loss is part of life. Uncertainty is part of life. And the moment you stop resisting that truth, suffering begins to disappear. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes, because for years, she had treated every uncomfortable emotion like an enemy. But now she finally understood. Peace was not the absence of pain. It was the ability to remain calm, even when life was imperfect. The transformation. As the weeks passed, something inside Elena slowly changed. Not dramatically, not instantly, quietly, like sunrise. For the first time in years, she began waking up without anxiety. She started noticing small things. The sound of birds, morning sunlight, warm tea in cold weather, wind moving through trees. Moments she had ignored her entire life suddenly felt meaningful. And strangely, the less she chased happiness, the more peaceful she became. One evening, while watching the sunset, Elena realized something profound. Her entire life, she had been trying to arrive somewhere, some future moment where she would finally feel complete. But peace was never waiting in the future. It existed only here, in the present moment. The old woman sat beside her quietly. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Your mind spent years running. Now it is finally learning to rest. Elena smiled softly. Not the fake smile she used for the world. A real one. Small, quiet, peaceful. For the first time in years, she felt alive. Returning to the world. Eventually, Elena returned to the city. The noise was still there. Traffic, pressure, deadlines, social media, stress. Nothing outside had changed, but something inside her had. She no longer needed to prove herself constantly. No longer needed endless validation. No longer believed happiness existed in achievement alone. People around her noticed the difference immediately. She spoke slower, listened more, smiled more naturally, reacted less emotionally, and, for the first time, she stopped living like someone being chased. One afternoon, a coworker asked her a question. You seem different lately. What changed? Elena thought for a moment. Then she smiled gently. I stopped trying to make life perfect. The coworker laughed. And that made you happy? Elena looked out the window quietly, then answered softly, No, it gave me peace. And deep inside, she knew something most people spend their entire lives searching for. Happiness will always come and go. But peace is something you create. Final lesson. Maybe you have been chasing happiness too. Trying to fix your life? Fix your future. Fix yourself. While your mind quietly destroys your peace every single day. Maybe the reason you feel exhausted is not because life is impossible. Maybe your soul is simply tired of fighting, tired of comparison, tired of fear, tired of overthinking, tired of trying to become enough. But peace begins the moment you stop running, the moment you stop feeding every negative thought, the moment you stop demanding perfection from life. Because real peace was never hiding somewhere far away. It was waiting beneath the noise inside your mind. So stop chasing happiness and start creating peace. If this story touched something inside you, take a moment to breathe. And remember, your peace matters more than your performance. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about mindset transformation, inner peace, and becoming stronger from within. Because sometimes the most important journey in life is the one that brings you back to yourself.
And stay close, because the next story may reveal the dangerous habit keeping millions of people poor without them ever realizing it. Thank you for watching. Your next level.